Hi everybody, this is Kevin, and welcome back to another anime review. And today I'd like to share my thoughts on the anime series Basilisk, otherwise known as Basilisk the Koga Ninja Scroll. Now, this series was recommended to me by my friend Justin all the way back when I watched and reviewed Samurai Champloo, and he said this is definitely worth checking out. And let me tell you, I watched this series twice, dude. It was fantastic. It was billed to me as Romeo and Juliet with ninja death battles, and let me tell you, that's a pretty accurate representation as to what the story is about. But it was initially a manga series that I think ran only 2 volumes from 2003 to 2004, and then it got the anime adaptation in 2005, and then eventually got the English dub released in 2008. And I never even heard about the series until Justin recommended it to me, because most of the anime that I saw back in the day was on Adult Swim or Toonami, and this was aired on the channel IFC, which I don't even think I had that channel, and IFC stands for Independent Film Channel, which is like, what the hell are they airing this for? So they must have been airing this at like 12 o'clock at night, because if you look on the back, it's rated MA, and let me just tell you, that's very warranted, because there's titty action in it, there's obviously the ninja death battles, lots of blood and gore, beheadings, some language, and it's fantastic, man. So this is going to be a heavily spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen the series, I highly recommend you check it out. It's only 24 episodes. It's on sale on Right Stuff right now. It's produced in America here by Funimation, although that's the dubbing company, but it was the animation done by Gonzo. So you can probably find it on Funimation's website, Best Buy, Right Stuff. You can probably find it online too. But essentially, it's set in the year early 1600s, and it follows 2 rival ninja clans, the Iga Subagakure and the Koga Manjidani. And at the point in the story where it starts, they're at peace. They have the no hostilities pact. And the very first episode, you have Koga Danjo, that's the leader of the Kogas, and Iga Ogen. And they each have a disciple of theirs. Danjo has Kazamachi, and Ogen has a man named Yashimaru. And they're meeting with the retired Shogun Ieyasu and the Hattori Hanzo. They're going to have a competition for sport. So Kazamachi is going to face off against Yashimaru, and basically, you know, they're having this crazy battle, and they each of the ninjas wields a power called dojitsu, and Kazamachi, he looks like a spider, and he can shoot venomous webs from his tongue, and Yashimaru wields like this thread type weapon that he can summon from his hands and then later from his legs, and it's very powerful. You see, like, as it gets close, it gets wrapped around Kazamachi, starts bleeding, and it's just crazy, man. But they have their little spar, and as it's going on, the Hattori Hanzo and Ieyasu and all the other people watching are like, what is wrong with these people? Like, how do they have these abilities? These aren't ninjas! And they're ready to kill each other. It's like, stop! And they're fighting on the top of this building, and the whole roof just collapses, and it's just crazy, man. And then there's a flashback between Ogen and Danjo, who were actually lovers way back when, and watching the flashback, they look very similar to the 2 main characters here, Genosuke and Oboro. Genosuke is the, I think they said he's the grandson of Danjo, and same with Oboro, the granddaughter of Ogen, and they're lovers as well, which I don't really know how that works, you know, like the incest thing going on there, but I thought during like the flashback it was the 2 of them, and they were meeting, you know, the Iga and the Koga people, rivals against each other, and throughout this, they're meeting together, and then all of a sudden there's an attack on Iga Subagakure, their home village there. And, you know, it turns out that the Kogas are attacking, and there's another clan involved, and there's all this bloodshed, and then they split off. And at the end of the very first episode, Ogen and Danjo are meeting together, and what happens is Danjo kills her. He, like, has this almost like a knife in his mouth, and he's like, he spits it like goes to her neck. She's like, bleeding all over. It's like, holy shit, dude. And then she does the same thing. She has like this hawk that distracts him, and she like grabs it out of her neck and starts stabbing him. And they each have a scroll with 10 names on it, and they both cross their names out on the list. And then she sends the hawk down to deliver it to whoever, to Yashimaru, I believe. And then he also sends Kazamachi, the spider guy, to deliver the scroll as well. And they both embrace as they're dying, like they're hugging. So obviously they still loved each other, but they they end the no hostilities pact and start the war. So anyway, that's the first episode. I'm going to share with you now the characters and just show you what they all look like and tell you. A phenomenal voice cast. It's done by Funimation, and a lot of familiar voice actors are here. Here's Ogun of the Iga right there. She's in charge, of the Iga Subagakure, the grandmother of Oboro. You have Oboro right here, who is in love with Genosuke and is set to marry Genosuke. And there's a lot of conflicting feelings watching this series because they want you to sort of root for the Koga. That's what I believe, because the main bad guy is Tenzin. He's a total scumbag. He's of the Iga. But Oboro is not a bad person. And even as you get introduced to more of the Iga people, like Yashimaru, he's not a bad person. Hotorube, I don't believe, is a bad person. Neither is Akaginyu. There's a lot of good people. But you have Tenzin, and then a lot of the other male characters with the Iga are total scumbags, like Nenki and Rusai and Jingoro, and they're all total scumbags. But anyway, you have Oboro, who's voiced by Laura Bailey, and the other main character, Genosuke, which I'll just show you him right there, he's voiced by Troy Baker, which is so interesting because they have been in so many, voice-acted roles together with games and, video games, anime series, etc. Like, for instance, Troy Baker voiced Joel in, what's the game called? The Last of Us. And Laura Bailey, who voices Oboro, voiced that other chick, Abby. And then they're both in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. In the Batman Telltale game, she voices Catwoman. Troy Baker voices Batman. So many roles that they've been in together. She's Sarah in Final Fantasy 13. Troy Baker is Snow in Final Fantasy 13. So it's just incredible looking at the history between those two voice actors, how they've been like lovers in so many different roles. Of course, here's Tenzin, who is, the bad guy of the whole series. Just look at him. He looks like a total scumbag. And his power is that he's an immortal ninja. He cannot die. And he gets killed like 4 times throughout the series, but he keeps coming back. And if you watch the whole opening, it insinuates, it like zooms in on his ears, and later on you see like his little earlobes here become eyeballs, like when he dies, and the fucking eyeballs seal his wounds, and it's really crazy, man. And then later on, it's just crazy, man. But Tenzin is the big bad guy. He's been around for over 180 years, I do believe, and he orchestrated the initial attack between the Iga and the Koga. You have Akaginyu, who is sort of like the maid of Oboro. Her magic, she uses like this blood magic, and she's sort of like a seductress. You see her battle later. She got her titties hanging out. Like I said, there's some titty action in the whole series. Koshiro, who is voiced by the guy who voices Tien Shinhan in Dragon Ball. And he's another sort of conflicted character where I don't necessarily think he's necessarily a bad guy. He just follows orders by Tenzin, but, he loves Oboro. They were childhood friends together, and I feel like he doesn't want to partake in these battles, but he has no choice but to follow Tenzin. And later on, when he's battling Genosuke, he uses his dojutsu, where he's like, he gets this wind power. And Genosuke's power is that his eyes light up, and he can essentially control his opponents. So he sends the wind back at Koshiro and blinds him. And just that whole scene, like his hands shaking, blood going everywhere, it's fantastic, man. The screams. Oh, the voice cast did a phenomenal job. Here's Jingoro. He's, just look at him. Do you trust this dude? And he turns into like this blob almost. And I don't even know what he's good for. He turns into a blob, can't really do anything. And then he's like, water, I need water. And his death is actually, he's killed by salt. He's thrown into the salt water. So he's kind of useless. You have Hotorube, who's voiced by Colleen Klinkenbeard. Of course, she's been in a lot of roles. Urza from Fairy Tail, My Hero Academia, Monkey D. Luffy from One Piece, etc. And Hotorube is actually in love with Yashimaru. And the two of them, again, I don't really necessarily think that they're bad guys. Obviously, they're on the Iga tribe, so they kind of have to be. And Yashimaru, he's the guy who fought in the very first episode with, like, the thread magic. And he's voiced by I forget the guy's name. I think Justin Cook is his name, who voices Yusuke in Yu Yu Hakusho. You have Nenki, who has better hair than Bobobo. And that's his magic. Look at his nose hairs there, just like Bobobo. And he, like, turns his hair into these fucking, death needles. Like, stabs this one chick and kills her. And he's just crazy, man. And then you have Rusai, who can extend his arms very long and, attack people that way. He's kind of like a Jawa. He dies early. So that's the Iga tribe. With the Koga, you have Danjo Koga. Again, he was like the lover with Ogun and the grandfather of Genosuke. Then you have Kagero, who is sort of in love with Genosuke as well. And her ability is poisonous breath. And when she gets sexual feelings for another person, can kill them with the sexual poisonous breath. It's pretty crazy. She's like seducing. She's another one who kills Tenzin and starts seducing him and kills the fucker. And then when Tenzin comes back to life, he's like, "Oh, I'd love to die many more times due to that." Ha ha ha. It's crazy. And Tenzin, he's a sick bastard, dude, because he's trying to marry Oboro because he wants the power of that would have if you were to marry her, become in charge of the Iga. And there's like a rape scene with her. She's like, "No, stop!" And he's like, "Yo, you'll be mine." It's like, holy shit, this dude is a total scumbag. But yeah, you have Kagero. You have Simon, who his ability is that he can basically take the form of an opponent that he's seen before, and he masks himself as Yashamoro. He masks himself as Tenzin and Nenki, a few others. So he uses trickery to basically get in there and deceive his opponents. Hyoma, who was a blind ninja and actually taught Genosuke the eye magic, and he's pretty badass as well. There's a great flashback scene. There's quite a few flashback scenes with Genosuke and Oboro as children, and Hyomo's training Genosuke, and basically the way he trains him is to blindfold him and says, if you don't need to see, you just need to feel everything around you, because he's blind. And then he's saved, and Genosuke appreciates what he was taught. You have Gyobu, this dude is my favorite character of the whole series. I feel like he had the most impact and the most stakes and the most reason to fight. And he's also voiced by Christopher Sabat. And what he can do is he can turn himself into the objects around him. Like he can phase himself into the ground, into the walls. Also, he's really strong. And his father was killed way back when by the Iga, so he has this vendetta against the Iga people. I think he probably gets the most kills out of all of them. He kills Jingoro, he kills Yashamoro, he kills Tenzin. I mean, it doesn't really count, but he does kill Tenzin. He gets the most kills. And a great it's right here where he's a child and he sees his father die. It's just incredible, man. That's he had the hair, right? But his father sort of had the Hulk Hogan hair, so he shaves his hair, becomes bald and all muscular like that. And this is how he dies. Like I said, he can phase himself into the walls and shit, and he's in the walls, and Akaginyu uses her blood magic to make him become seen, and then Tenzin stabs him, and they deliver the wall here to the survivors of the Koga towards the end there. And it's terrible seeing his death. Like I said, I thought he was definitely the best character. I really enjoyed him. And again, by Christopher Sabat was terrific. Here's Okoi, who's actually the sister of Simon. And she's another seductress as well, who can suck the blood from people. She gets a kill there. She kills Rusai. And she's voiced by Monica Rial. And, pretty good character there as well. Here's Josuke Udono, who he's impervious to pain. He's a big dude who he gets stabbed in the head, but it doesn't do anything because he's made of rubber. And he accompanies Genosuke early on. He's actually killed by Jingoro. I said Jingoro is kind of useless, but this dude here, but he does manage to kill Josuke. He's one of the early deaths. Jubei, who's voiced by Eric Val. What a waste of Eric Val's voice acting, because this dude was killed right away by Tenzin. And let me see if I can get a picture of him, because he has no limbs. Look at him. He has no arms or legs. And he has fortune-telling abilities. And early on, he's like, "Oh, the stars spell misfortune for Danjo." And he makes his way to Iga Subagakure to get in contact with Genosuke. But he's ambushed by 5 of the Igas. And what he does is he has a dagger hidden in his throat, and he stabs Tenzin, and you think he kills Tenzin right away, but Tenzin comes back to life, and he's like, "What will you do now? You have no arms or legs." I know you already seen your trick. You will be destroyed. And he, like, cuts him in half. It's crazy, dude. So, a shame we didn't see much of him. And then, of course, Kazamachi. You see him early on. He's like the spider guy. Pretty scary looking dude. But the characters are all fantastic. It starts off with Oboro, who, you know, is set to marry Genosuke, and as all this is going on, Tenzin's conspiring in the background and slowly picking off members of the Koga clan. And then, of course, Genosuke finds this out, and they make their way back, and there's this great standoff where he's rescued by Gyobu and Simon, and they're making their escape, and Koshiro, he's got like these sickles that he throws. Of course, they don't really do anything, and then he's ready to use his wind dojutsu, and Genosuke reverses it, blinds him, and makes their way back, and then they set off for the Tokaido Road to meet with the Hattori Hanzo, and slowly but surely, more and more keep getting killed, and then at the end there, the Iga, there's only a few of them left. It's like Oboro and Akaginyu and Tenzin, and they run into this woman named Ofaku, who is the caretaker of the next in line to be the next shogun. And she sort of is like, oh, I mean, it's all almost like a political struggle here to gain more power. So she puts everyone against themselves, and then eventually everyone dies. There's this crazy-ass scene with Tenzin at the end where Oboro's magic, she also uses eye magic and can nullify the dojutsu of her opponents. So what happens is they cut off Tenzin's head. And like I said, he's the immortal ninja who can heal his wounds. So they put the other people around him, put his head back on, and then you see like the monster inside him, like forms another head and a mouth right where his neck is. It's like, oh, kill Genosuke. It's like, holy shit, dude. And then eventually Oboro opens her eyes to use her magic, her dojutsu, and kills him, and just like the cracking of his head coming off, it's crazy, man. And then eventually we meet Robert McCollum's character, which, where is he? I have him. He's the adopted son of the Hattori Hanzo, right here, and they agree to basically have a duel to figure out who's gonna win the final battle, because all that's left is Oboro and Genosuke, but they don't want to fight each other. Of course, they love each other. And what happens is Genosuke is already wounded from his battle, so he can't really do much. And Oboro draws her sword and stabs herself and kills herself. And it's very reminiscent from the first episode with Ogun and Danjo, as they, you know, were holding each other going down the river. And that's exactly what happens. And what happens is with Genosuke's, you know, last moments on Earth, he takes the blood, crosses out all their names, and then writes on the scroll that Oboro was the winner of the No Hostilities Pact of the war between the Iga and the Koga. And just fantastic. I mean, I was kind of teared up at the end there. And like I said, I felt for both sides. Obviously, Tenzin's a total scumbag. But Oboro and Genosuke wanted to marry each other, and, you know, they loved each other. And then you had other characters who I feel like didn't want to get involved. Like, you had Hodorube and Yashimaru, who were in love as well, and they just wanted peace. And there's a flashback scene where Yashimaru is talking to Hodorube, and he says, yeah, the no hostilities is great, we'll have peace. And then, like I said, I believe that Gyobu is my favorite character, the one voiced by Christopher Sabat, because he had the most motives. I mean, his father was killed by the Igas. I think he did get the most kills. I think he got like 3 or 4 kills, and he was just a badass, dude. Like a total badass. Like especially when Tenzin and the other 4 or 5 ninjas arrive in Manjidani. He comes out, he's like, intruder alert, intruder alert! There are Iga ninjas in Manjidani! It's so badass, man. I loved it. So, this series was fantastic. Thank you so much, Justin, for recommending it to me. Like I said, I watched it twice. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Great battles. The deaths are all gruesome. You know, you get. I always get emotional with shit. I was definitely on the verge of tears at the end there. The voice acting, like I said, it was fantastic. They use like traditional Japanese language too. Like Genosuke refers to Oboro as Oboro Dono, which Dono means Lord. And she calls Genosuke Sama, which is not really sure what it's a step above San, like saying San or Kun. And you know, I like how they use that sort of Japanese language, and just the way they deliver things, like talking really fast, like Iga Suba Gakure and Koga Manjidani and the Tokaido Road. You know, it's fucking badass. I loved it, dude. Again, I find it funny, too, and I love that fact that you have Troy Baker and Laura Bailey as the two main characters, the two main lovers, and they've been in so many other things together. Like I mentioned, they were in say you about The Last of Us. I never even played those games, but they were in The Last of Us together. She was Sarah, he was Snow in Final Fantasy 13. He was Batman, she was Catwoman in the Batman Telltale games. They're both in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Of course, Troy Baker was in Naruto, Bleach, a bunch of other anime. I believe Laura Bailey was in Fruits Baskets, a few others, and fantastic. Highly recommend it. I'll show you. It's on Right Stuff. There's a bunch of sales going on now, so if you want to look into that. There's apparently a sequel series as well, which, Justin, leave me a comment if you've seen the sequel series. I don't really know, because they're kind of expensive. I mean, the main series is only $23. I find this funny that they have DVD 6, which has like the final 4 episodes, 20 to 24 on there. This is the whole series on Blu-ray. It's only $3 though for the collectors. But this is the sequel series, apparently set 10 years after the events of the initial one. But it's just expensive. I mean, the 2 Blu-ray DVDs, almost $30. Initially $65. Holy shit. But you see, it's sort of like a distant relative of Genosuke and Oboro. But this one has 1 to 12, and the other one has 13 to 24. So I'm not sure, but I can recommend this series wholeheartedly. It was fantastic. Like I said, I saw it twice. Let me know in the comments down below who your favorite character was. Like I said, mine was Gyobu, and I loved it. The music was all great. There's a number of scores, too, with Genosuke playing the flute, and just great traditional music, Japanese music, and fantastic. Highly recommend it. That's all I got to say for this video. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And stay tuned for more anime reviews, manga reviews, and all sorts of other fun stuff coming soon. Have a great day, everybody.